This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
And good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you're watching this particular program. Welcome to Main Street. Gary Allen with you. We have a great show with you today. I have a great guest on, one of my dear friends in the whole wide world. I hope everything has gone well for you since the last time we were together. I hope your family and you are safe and sound from all the different weather that's going on in the Northeast, in the South, and wherever it can be. I would like to first thank a couple of people before we get into today's show. First of all, the Japanese Gardens of Miami, as well as the Elks Lodges of South Florida, for their continued support of this particular program, along with my executive producer, Rick Del Vecchio, and my producer on site, Mr. Tommy Sett. Will again, thank you very much for your help in putting this program and keeping it moving forward. As I said, we got a great guest on today. We're going to talk about a lot of sports, because that's what he and I do when we are together. We're going to talk about everything from the NIL to the transfer portal, what's going on with the University of Miami. Are the Kansas City Chiefs for real? Are they going to be, the next GOAT in the NFL as far as the football team is concerned? We're also going to talk about LeBron James. Is he coming to the end of his career? Is Steph Curry coming to the end of his career? Are the Warriors done and finished with? And we're also going to talk about the great phenom in the female basketball world in college basketball, and that's Caitlin Collins. So without further ado, would you please welcome from his palatial palace somewhere in Sunrise, Florida, Mr. Green Bay Packer himself. Who is this? Oh, yeah, Dave LaMont.
Well, I'm Mr. Green Bay Packer with an Orioles shirt over my jersey. That's interesting.
Well,
By the way,
yeah, but
for the record, that would be Caitlin Clark, sir.
Is it Clark? What did I say?
It is Clark, yes.
What did I say?
You made her into a combination of Caitlin Clark and Doug Collins.
I knew I was going to flub it.
Women's basketball is taking baby steps, and, there's one right there. We just fixed that. So, yes. Lots to talk about with her, though.
Oh, she is a phenomenon. And for the guys at ESPN that say that she's not really a true champion until she wins a championship, first of all, she's on a basketball team at Iowa. They're not going to win a championship. She doesn't have the surrounding cast. No, Dave, I don't think so. I don't think she has a surrounding cast.
So you like South Carolina? You think, what are you looking for, a repeat from LSU? You like Baylor? What do you like?
LSU looks strong. South Carolina
Iowa went a long way last year.
Yeah. They did. They did, but I just have this feeling that, she's going to go down as one of the greatest female basketball players. And somebody also stated on ESPN, which his name shall remain nameless.
You can call him out. Why would you? No.
Nah,
by the way, they're 22-3 and ranked 4th, so you know.
Okay. But he says she's also going to struggle in the WNBA. She's not going to get along with her fellow players. I think she's going to get along fabulous, because all those ladies care about is winning.
Well, I don't know. You're talking about Jay Williams, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem I have with his comments. Number one, they're stupid. Saying she's not a great player and he's been properly, crashed for that. How he knows she's not going to go, I don't know. I don't know what his insights are in the WNBA. Maybe he knows things that we don't. But the not great comment is bizarre. And the only thing I can attribute it to is that it was his turn to try to get attention. He's gotten it. If he wanted attention, which is part of the job of being a commentator and an analyst, is to get people to notice you. Well, he's done that. Yeah. I'm not sure what he's basing it on. The lack of championships. That you don't get a lot of them. And what she does at the next level will only improve the sport and improve more eyeballs. And you get, her rival from LSU, Angel Reese, in there, who's a hell of a player. Although UConn's Paige Buchers is going to stay. So she's not available for the WNBA draft. That hurts the WNBA a little bit, particularly with a team in Connecticut. But no, it's just, it goes, and we could spend 5 hours of me kvetching about the state of talk shows today and what is being done right now to get attention, which is to say anything. It doesn't have to make sense, and people get mad at you, but that's what you want. Yeah. And then we'll go on to the next dumb thing that somebody else says. That's the very short version of all that.
And here's the weird part. Somebody said at the very same time, because my brother Rick pointed this out to me the other day when we were talking about this, at the time that he made that statement, somebody said, Dan Marino.
Oh, there's a million of them. Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
We could go down the list of tremendous players and people who are Hall of Famers, which is the absolute final definition of greatness. Reggie Miller, who never won a championship in their league. The Hall of Fame is loaded with guys like that, and that's why the statement is stupid. That's why I don't know what prompted him to say it. Deeply believe that. For all we
I
know,
think it's jealousy. I think
yeah, I don't know
he has
why he was
shown.
jealous. You're jealous. Well, I don't know. I mean, his career, unfortunately, due to a mistake he made with a motorcycle, never really got going.
Right.
He was a high draft pick and all that other stuff. Maybe I would be wistful about it if I were him, but
Yeah.
hopefully he's moved on. I don't know him, by the way. Of the people when I used to work at ESPN, I'd never encountered him, so I don't know what kind of a guy he is.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think she's going to go down as a great player. What she does in the WNBA, which will be getting on to our next subject. I mean, why should she leave Iowa? Because the NIL is probably paying her more now
She's
than
getting
she will
nothing.
make.
I just
Really?
read something like just no money from boosters.
You're kidding.
Have you seen a Caitlin Clark deal? I think has she popped up maybe in a commercial? I think she has, so she's getting paid there. But I don't know if she has much going on in NIL. I don't know about women's basketball yet being in that. And I should probably look that up. I could do that while we're talking. But there
Yeah,
was some
fine.
article that mentioned that she's doing it without the help of boosters. I know she has appeared in, I'm pretty sure, at least one commercial that I've
Mhm.
seen. And actually, I should have put NIL here uh, and see if she's got anything. So make sure we're not. Clark earns. This is from On Three Sports.
Yeah.
Uh, um, Clark earns exactly 0 cents per game at Iowa, making her grand total from the university zero to the exact amount that Kelsey Plum made at Washington before her WNBA stardom. Plum's record is the one she broke. Clark is under the NCAA's thumb as name, image, and likeness bills have been passed and has an NIL value of $818,000, according to On Three Sports.
Right.
Now, that's her valuation. I don't know if that's now, let's see here, but here's another article. So she may be getting the 800 grand. I don't know what annual validation. I am not nearly enough of an economist or a lawyer to know that. So she's not getting anything from boosters, but she may be getting some cash as well. She deserves it for her impact on the game.
Right. I just look at this, which is our next subject to move on, and we'll get back to Miss Clark in a little bit later on. The transfer portal, the NIL, um, and I have an article here that I think you're going to find quite amusing. According to Mike Loxley, the head coach at Maryland,
Yeah,
a third
football.
string, a third string running back, a third string running back came into his office and said, "I need $100,000 or I'm out of here." Now, the coach didn't say which two, but two running backs that were third string transferred out of the school this year.
Hmm.
This is getting so far out of whack uh, that it's insane, this NIL money. Because first of all, you and I both know, and any fan out there knows this, that the big money is going to the guys at the top, and it trickles down as you go down. And I'm sure there are guys that are not making a dime of NIL money that are
Oh,
playing
sure.
college football.
Almost any smaller school, which is really the bulk of college football players. Because if you count every level, there are hundreds of colleges and universities playing everything from, what we mainly talk about, the highest D1 programs, down to Division two, Division three, and NAIA programs. They all make up football. Um, it's if he wants that kind of money and he thinks he can get it, then the rules allow him to do that.
Yeah.
The issue I have is I don't think you're ever going to reverse this. I
No.
don't see how legally you can do it. And the NCAA I've never quite understood how that organization is still around because it's like Fort Lauderdale Airport. They're never ahead. They're always playing from behind. And
Perfect.
and here they are behind again.
Yeah.
Was there nobody with the foresight to go, I think this is going to come through and we need to be prepared for it. Or maybe they realize, oh, hell, we'll just get our butts kicked in court again, and we're just not going to do anything about it because if we try to make a rule, say, capping it for per university,
Hmm.
then people will still get around it and we'll be back to cheating. This is open cheating now. This is cheating like in the sun, as opposed to the under the table stuff that was going. It's not even cheating anymore. So it's eliminated that, but you're right. It's gotten to a point now where people are making decisions not necessarily on the best fit for their life, but on the best fit for their bank.
Charles Barkley said before the All-Star game yesterday that the NCAA, they're boneheads. They're boneheads. They don't act, they react.
Hmm.
And then after they react, then they got to react again to whatever mistake they've made along the way. I personally don't think the NCAA, Dave, has a lot of power when it comes to a lot of things in college football anymore, or baseball, or basketball, or for that matter, sports in general. I think they've weakened their positions over the years.
Hmm.
The coach from Penn State said basically, the reality is that college football, we've all known, is done. It's gone. It's never coming back. We need to accept it, deal with it, and continue to move forward, and hopefully make rules that make it better.
Well, I don't know exactly what the rules would be to make it better, unless literally you did impose a cap.
Yeah.
Um, College football, as we know it, is gone. I think that as we knew it, I think that's a better way to phrase that. I guess he's trying to say that it's more professional, but it's kind of been that way for a while at some levels,
Right.
at the attention getting levels. If you drop down to a smaller conference or you drop down to a smaller level, no, things are completely different. And that may be where a bulk of the people play football. You think of the tiny, tiny, tiny minority of people who are actually going to make it in the NFL who are playing college football right now. It's
Little
about 1 or
small,
2%. It is
small group.
extremely tiny. So a
Yes.
lot of these guys, once they take the uniform off for the last time, are never going to play football again, and they're going to go on with their lives and hopefully their degrees and get into whatever they wanted to get into when they were going to college. A lot of these guys really do go to class. They gotta
Mhm.
get this education. They've got to get that degree in order to make the next step in their life. A Bijan Robinson, for example, if he misses a few classes, no one's going to scream because everybody knew that guy was an NFL prospect in Texas and was, definitely doing well in NIL money before he left. But
Right.
how many Bijan Robinsons are there out there? And I think people, Gary, get blinded by the big stuff and don't understand the heart and soul of the sport is still the guys who play it because they love football or because my parents can't afford college. I
Yeah.
need to be here. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to get any kind of a decent education. So I'll be in class Monday morning after a long road trip, maybe from coast to coast, and I'll be in class after practice, or I'll set my schedule up so it doesn't interfere with weightlifting. But I got to be in classes and I got to get my degree.
Yeah. I mean, my own nephews, my nephew and niece said to their father, Rick, how come we can't go to the University of Miami like Uncle Gare? And back in the day when you and I went to the U, you got there through scholarships, or in my case,
Not
I'm
me.
a veteran. Well, no, not you, but I was a veteran, and that's how I got to go because on what they called what the GI Bill was at the time, and that's how I got to go there. By the way, that you brought up something very interesting about all of this. It is legal now, but there are certain schools. I'm sure. Look at Old Miss. I mean, they're getting people through the transfer portal, and because of the NIL money is there. SMU, any Texas college has got money oozing,
They
oozing
should.
out of their bank accounts.
SMU's got some very rich alums. That's a Tony school, and the irony, of course, is they're the ones who caused themselves to get the death penalty for the only team in college football history to have that happen to them. In the mid '80s. But no, Texas in particular. I mean, my oldest son was a graduate assistant basketball coach for 2 years at Texas, and every starter was pulling in six figures and cars and things, and even like the sixth and seventh man were doing very well. That's just the nature of that's just how it's going. And again, we can go, this is bad, or we can try
Yeah.
to accept it and understand. Can we make it better? Can we make it more equitable?
What'd your
Um,
son think of it? What'd your son think of all
Not
of
a
it?
fan. Not a fan. He played college basketball. This before the NILs. He might have been able, and he was in Western Michigan and Kalamazoo, and maybe he could have scored a small deal for himself, because he was the captain of the team for a couple of years. But um, that's why when he graduated from the University of Texas, he sought a job in the NBA, not college basketball. That turned him off, and he's also not the biggest fan of recruiting. So he's in the NBA at the moment, fortunately. So
Who's he with?
Washington Wizards as
Ah,
a player development and video coach, and hopefully with the coaching change that he'll get to stick around for a little while longer. Depends on
yeah,
where, how low on the totem pole can you be to avoid everything going above your head. But
yeah,
that
yeah.
was one big reason, Gary, that he could have probably used contacts, and he maybe even could have gone with Beard to Mississippi if he'd wanted to. But because Beard took him from Texas Tech to Texas, so Beard would have helped him.
Yeah.
But Chris Beard, who's now at Ole Miss, but he didn't want to be in the college game.
Yeah. Speaking of transferring and stuff like that, how many coaches in college football, basketball, etc., are now leaving the college ranks because they're tired of the recruiting, they're tired of the transfer portal, they're tired of this, they're tired of that. We just lost what, two coaches in the last 3 weeks or so. I mean, how many are going to
Yeah,
the
but where did they
NFL?
go?
Well, one of them went to the New England Patriots.
That's a better job.
Yeah, it's a better job. And I'm not arguing that it isn't, but a lot of them are saying they're just not, they don't want to deal with this transfer
Mhm.
portal thing. Some changes need to be made there as to dates. And that's what a lot of coaches are saying. And that was my next thing to you. What changes need to be made in the portal and dates? Early signing day now we have in December
Which is
instead of
now
when,
the main signing day, by the way. Although there was
yeah,
some kids at American Heritage where I work who signed uh, week week and a half, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
And some are still out there being recruited. Um, yeah, you're right. I think maybe the dates would help. Maybe we put a limit on how many transfers you can have as an athlete, but you know that puts a little more onus on you because some of these transfers are undoubtedly things that we don't even know about. There's that line from The Godfather. There's things going on behind the scenes that'll answer all your questions, and
Yes.
it's there's transfers that probably happen for reasons we don't think about. It's not just a guy who wants more playing time. There could be a lot more to it than that. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just a guy who wants a six-figure NIL deal for sitting on the bench. There are behavioral issues. There are family issues. Everybody rightfully covers this up because it's not our business, even though we all want to know because we're nosy and spoiled a bit as fans because we get so much information. So it's not just as simple as just saying, "Oh, these guys are all greedy." There are plenty of things that go on
Oh, sure.
that cause a young athlete to want to switch schools.
I
Personality
mean, when,
conflicts are another thing, and sometimes the
yeah,
coaches will go, "Hey, you're in the transfer portal. I can't stand your face. You're not going to
yeah.
help my program. You're not doing anything here. Why don't you go play someplace else where you can get some playing time?" Those conversations happen. Maybe not quite like that, but there's that too.
Oh, no, I think Mario, when he spoke to his group last year, when not this past year, but the year before last, his first full season at the U, when he told those 40 players, "You're not going to be around here. Transfer out." I'm sure he was pretty polite but blunt about it. Mario has always been polite but yet blunt, and I'm sure other coaches have as well. To say to their players, it's time for you to go. But you're right in that. How many guys, when I went to the University of Miami and you went to college at the U, they got to the U and they went, "Oh, I'm going to go back home to college. I'm going somewhere
Well,
else. I'm
sure.
going to,"
Happens all the time.
yeah,
There are guys who transfer either closer to home or maybe they're not, or at least in the same state to give their
yeah,
parents or family a chance to see them play. That is a factor for some people. I know that for a fact. Uh, and even sometimes the athletes that I deal with at American Heritage who get scholarships in all sports, we have some pretty strong programs are going to play if they can, and if the deal is good, if the scholarship is good, and if it's a good school, they're going to try to stay in Florida or even closer to say FAU or FIU if it's
hmm,
available. That's certainly part of the deal too. You get homesick, you don't feel right. Maybe the weather is a problem for you. You go, wait a minute, it's cold here. Why is it cold here? I came from the south. I'm not into that. I'm going to go find something in the SEC or someplace in Florida.
Right.
Yeah, that happens. That's normal. It's completely normal. There's all sorts of ways to either get kicked off a team or to decide that something isn't right for you.
Yeah. And then there's the other end, mom and dad back home saying, I know Miami Beach is this, Miami Beach is that, but I want you home. Da 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 da. And the pressure can really be mounting on that end, as you just said just a few minutes ago, from the families. We want you home. There's a college right down the road. Blah
Well,
blah
if
blah.
that college down the road wasn't interested in you, then what are you going to do?
True.
I've always wondered why more heritage kids don't wind up in Miami. Well, maybe they don't want them there. I mean, Mark Fletcher's working out very nicely for the Hurricanes, but you have Mike Rumpf, who was the head coach at Heritage Football for a while, and is he still at UM? And has he been able to get more guys here? There's some really talented people.
Yeah.
If good parents would not do that, but some parents are definitely doing it.
Oh yeah.
A
It's
really good
happened.
parent will
Yeah.
offer opinions, uh, guidance, but never tell a kid where to go. That would be bad.
Yeah. I want to change course here just a little bit, and then we'll get back to this maybe later or the next time. By the way, Dave is going to be on this show at least once a month.
Whether you guys
Uh,
like it or not, by the way.
yeah, whether you like it or not, he's my buddy. He's a brother from another mother, and that's the way it is. That's
Well, we're
that's
both
all I
from
need
other
to.
mothers, if you with our adoption history, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Which, yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. This SEC and Big Ten collaboration, where do you see it going, and what do you see it
mm.
doing to college football, baseball, college sports in general?
Well, I feel badly. The first thing I always think about is the so-called non-revenue sports, which you mentioned baseball, swimming, since my wife is heavily involved in that, golf, tennis, lacrosse, cross country, track and field, wrestling, all these sports that suddenly have to accumulate all these soccer, all these softball, and so on. Let's forget about football for a minute and think of the travel cost that's being absorbed. Now, what you're going to hope is that the money that's being made, the extra money that's being made, will be spent somewhat equitably to reduce that burden on these students who all of a sudden, if you're a UCLA softball player, and now why am I in Rutgers, New Jersey this weekend? And then I've got to fly back cross country. And oh, by the way, I got class Monday. And you're going to, that bothers me. That was, but they run over those sports like a bright line train runs over people. Never bright lines fall, by the way. These dum-dums sit on the tracks, but that's what it's like. You're going to see what you're going to start to see is you're going to start to see sporting events ended early or interrupted because these teams don't fly charter. They are commercial airline customers, and they're stuck on the commercial airline schedule. And maybe
Yeah.
they can't afford the extra night of hotel. I can remember in my baseball days, periodically, the Sunday afternoon game would get shortened or even canceled if there was a travel issue with one team having to leave Miami. Hey, listen, our flight leaves at such and such. We're never going to. This is the only chance we have to get home for a day. We've checked out of our hotel. We cannot check in. Stuff like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
At the football level, it's just going to be whatever television tells them to do. That's become clear now that more than ever, ESPN and Fox and CBS and NBC now have entered into this, much like Ty Cobb slid into second baseman with their spikes up and sharpened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're having a say in these matchups. And listen, are we going to see some big name matchups that we never thought we'd see in our life in a regular season instead of in a bowl game or in a playoff game? Yeah. And we might be fun.
Yeah.
But am I going to be excited about, Indiana, UCLA? Not really, unless both teams somehow are good. And the SEC, I think you're going to end up with 3 conferences? Some
Probably.
version of the Big 12. Maybe the Big 12 has kind of survived this rather nicely, I think.
Yeah. The
And
Pac-12 is dead. The Pac-12
well,
is
there is no
gone.
Pac-12 after this cycle of sports ends. There's 2 teams left. They're trying to figure out their way. And hopefully they find it. I think they're trying to go through the courts to get some reparations from this. And don't hold me to that, but I saw something that Oregon State and Washington State picked up a victory in court.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what it was about. So a lot of this will probably still be settled that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just, my brother and I, again, Rick and I were talking. He should be on the show too. we were talking about the fact that the travel is going to be a beast coming from the West Coast, even to the Midwest or to the East Coast. I think Cal comes to Miami next year to play the
Yeah.
Canes. That's not a big deal unless those students have, and that game with Cal, unless it's a 12 o'clock game, it's going to be a 4 o'clock game at Hard Rock. But then again, they got Sunday to get home.
But they have a
Uh,
charter flight. I don't
yeah.
feel badly for them. Here's what let's say it is a 4 o'clock kick. So the network say, okay, we'll put you on or 3:30.
Okay.
Well, you're done at 7. So coaches will start yelling at guys, hey, let's get out of here in an hour. That was the old Howard Schnellenberger thing when I would travel with him at FAU. Want to get out of here in an hour, God damn it.
Let's
And
let's
you
all get
know,
together with the number one that couldn't do that. We're
and
gonna have
that was we did, by the way, we never quite did it in an hour, but say
no.
you're out of there in 90 minutes. So now it's 8:30. Everybody's showered, dressed. The buses are loaded. Now you got to get to the airport, uh, load the plane, which is an incredible amount of responsibility for the equipment managers. All that football equipment going on there, everything from cameras to trunks with helmets to medical equipment, uniforms, all of that stuff got to get in the plane, along with every person, of course. I
Yeah.
would say that's 90 to 2 hours plus. So you're taking off about 10 o'clock, which is 7 o'clock out there. You're getting home about, I'm not sure where you
2 in
fly
the
into
morning.
there, maybe San Jose, unless there's a private airport, but you're taking a big plane. So you're going to probably get back to your dorm buses about 11 to midnight Pacific time. That does give you Sunday to recover. It actually is worse if you're when Miami goes to, let's say, Cal one day, and even if they play, and they wouldn't be playing at noon. Well, they could play at noon Pacific, but that's 3 out here. Now I think that's worse
Yeah.
because now you're getting home at sunrise. I did
Yeah.
that. My first game working with Sonny Hirsch was at UCLA. Butch Davis'
Uh,
first game when Miami gets their brains beat in, and we landed at home about 6 in the morning.
yep. I
And
used to do I used to do the as an entertainer in Vegas, I used to do the red eyes to the East Coast to get in early. And boy, it from west to east, it drains you. From east to
mhm,
west, you're fine.
yep,
By the way, you just mentioned a name that, listen, I know our good friend Joe Zagacki is the voice of the Miami Hurricanes now, but I got to tell you something, Dave. You had a privilege of working with one of the men. I never got to meet him. I don't know what he's like. I'm told he was a really nice guy,
mhm.
but Sonny Hirsch, to me, he is Miami sports. I'm sorry. He is Miami sports.
Well, for a certain generation, they're younger people today or people in their 20s and 30s who might
They
tune
never
in,
heard of him.
don't know who he is, don't appreciate the contributions he's made. I mean, that's just generational. That is going to happen. Not that his name will fade forever into nothingness. That's not going to be the case. There
No,
are certain people in every town, big town, that's going like Vin Scully's never going to fade from Los Angeles.
no. Harry
People like
Callis with
that.
the Phillies.
Harry
Harry
Kelsey,
Callis.
Harry Carey in Chicago, both, the whole city because he did both teams. They're still going to have that. And I think Sonny will represent that along with people like Neil Rogers and Hank Goldberg here and a few others. But, it's unfortunate. Sonny was a trip. It took me, I had met him, of course, through running into him a few times, but worked closely with him as I did for 3 years. Spent a lot of time on the road with him, a lot of games, a lot of travel, a lot of meals. He was an actual character by the very definition of the word, never in a bad way. He can be fussy, but when you've done it this long, you get used to things your way and having things done the way he wanted to do it. So I felt like I had to adjust more to him than he had
Yeah.
to adjust to me, and
Yeah.
I was fine with that. I look back on it now as that was a good lesson because I worked with so many different people at ESPN. I had 46 different color commentators for football, uh, and I think in basketball I was in the 20s or 30s. So I was always working with somebody I'd never met before.
Yeah.
So you're always having to respect that person's ways of how he or she would do things.
Well, you had a privilege, and I wish I had I wish I had been around. I think in LA when you were working with Sonny.
Well, you're
I've sort
probably
of
like entertaining people on red eye flights or something. Come on, man.
you never know. Except for me, I might absolutely be fast asleep. You never know. I used to sleep on those things, man, because
I don't get much
when
sleep.
you're traveling on the road like I was, and you're doing so many shows in a week, my God, you were like, all right, what town are we in now?
Yeah.
And I would never travel with Engelbert or Tom on their private jets. No, I had to do commercial. I had to do commercial. So it
You know
was
what? That tells me that you just weren't good enough to travel on those jets, Gary. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that
It
was
must
it.
have
That
been
was
it.
even Johnny Dark didn't travel with them privately. So I mean, Johnny is what he was. Um, you've had an interesting career, as you said, working with a lot of different people over the years. I did you ever get a chance to work? And this is a sidebar to this. Oh, before I go there, I just want to remind everybody you're watching Main Street with my good friend Dave LaMont. Dave will be joining us once a month to talk about sports. And somewhere in June or July, we're going to be doing a 1 hour every week by ourselves. He's going to be off for the summer, and so we're going to
Well,
be
that's
able to
what you
do.
think.
Well,
You ever heard of
we're still.
a little thing
Uh,
called Bowl TV this summer, my friend?
oh, really? What's
I'll be
that?
hitting the road again for it's the I'll be doing a lot of traveling with the PBA 50 tour on the
Okay.
streaming service Bowl TV, but we'll talk about that later. But
But
you'll
we
probably
will.
still be able to catch me from some of the
Okay, we're gonna get you. We're gonna get
yeah,
you
you'll
once a
get me.
month. We'll get you. But at any particular rate, you're watching Main Street with Dave Lamont. Dave is one of my dear friends in the whole sports world. We both went to the U. We're both proud of that, and we are both really good friends. And I hope you all are enjoying the show. I hope you enjoy all our shows. And when you do go on YouTube, our where you can catch all the shows, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. I think they ask you one or two questions, but it doesn't cost you anything. So please subscribe. It doesn't put any money in my account, but it helps me get a better link to give to you on a regular
Well, we
basis.
got
So,
to start putting money in your account, Gary.
yeah, well, I need money, period. At this particular where I live in Palm Bay, Florida,
No,
the thriving metropolis.
yeah,
It,
I no, I couldn't do that. I'm not ready for the small town life. I still like
I'm
big suburb life.
I'm not either. I want to come home to Miami and work and do things, but the prices being what they are, let's
Oh
be
yeah,
honest, it's very expensive.
it has
It is.
become. I mean, I know we're way sidebarring here, Gary. Have you read the articles about how expensive it is to live here in
Yeah,
Miami?
my
Not so much Fort Lauderdale, where I'm at, but Miami.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Whew.
Well, or even Fort Lauderdale, if I was allowed to be able to get back there, it would be absolutely great. Um, FSU and the ACC. Haven't heard much about it in the last couple of weeks. Ever since the bowl games,
Yay!
yes. Um, the last number I got was for them to get out of their contract, it would cost them $350 million to buy out between the actual buyout and other legal issues for them to even get out of the ACC.
Mhm.
And here's a question that Paul Feinbaum brought up: where the SEC might want them, but they'd have to bring another team along with them. Now, there are other teams in the ACC. We know, Dave. We've heard about them. North Carolina, maybe even Miami, that have said, yeah, maybe we'd like to get out of the ACC. But the SEC is not interested in anybody right now.
No,
They're interested in just staying where they are. But if they do take on a team, they're going to take on two, not one.
that makes sense because it throws everything into imbalance to have an odd number for your scheduling again for all your sports, not just football. Hey, folks, there are other sports in college besides football and basketball.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I understand why they're angry and they're going to be bitter probably forever.
Yep.
Um, Not even if they're fortunate enough or good enough, I should say, to win a title in a year or two, if they can maintain what they're having right now and keep people healthy. Uh, will that ever erase that kind of bitterness? Ask Oregon people how they feel about Nebraska playing Miami for the BCS championship. Not happy. Um, so it's I look at conference realignment with massive disgust. I understand it, but I don't like it. What it has
Yeah.
done, it's beginning to turn back a touch with Texas and the SEC. Now you revived Texas and Texas A&M. You
Yeah.
kept Texas and Oklahoma, which was good. We may be getting closer to West Virginia and Pitt one day, getting back to war, with each other. But we lost that rivalry. We've lost so many. Now you could argue, but wait a minute, Dave. New ones will spring up. Yeah, but it takes a while to do that. And if
Yeah.
Florida State leaves, will they still play Miami? Will we still have that annual game to look forward to? We don't really have Miami versus Florida that often, although we do this year.
Yep.
Florida State. Well, I guess if they went to the SEC, but they play every year anyway. I think they're going to always do that. It bothers me that things like Rutgers in the Big Ten, Maryland in the Big Ten. I grew up in the DMV, and Maryland was an ACC school, and I was there. It's always going to be an AC school in my heart. And, it's just, I don't care for it. I understand the cold-hearted reasons behind it. And if I were maybe a conference commissioner or working in a conference, I would
Right.
accept it a lot better than I do. It feels weird to say that Cincinnati and UCF are Big 12 teams, that BYU played in the Big 12. Some of that stuff, I understand it, but I don't have to like it.
I looked at it the way I think a lot of people looked at it when FSU started making a fuss about the ACC. And I thought about this 4 years ago, 5 years ago. They were about as relevant as me eating an ice cream cone this afternoon at 2:00.
No, enjoy that. What kind of flavor are you going to get? Don't say vanilla.
No,
Liven it up. Come on, man.
Dave, you know me better than that. You know me.
You got to make it interesting.
Probably coffee. So that's
That's it.
ever since I'm no longer working in radio on a regular basis, it's like I don't get my coffee spike every now and then. So I'll have some coffee ice cream or something along the way.
Anyway,
but you get my point. They weren't relevant in college football. They were at the bottom of the barrel.
They were hurting. Absolutely. They were hurting.
And all of a sudden, because they've become big again through the transfer portal, which I don't begrudge them anything. I mean, Wayne Kiffin at Mississippi, he's gone through the transfer portal left and right. And Mario has gone there too. But there's going to come a time, and I think it's going to be this year, that they're not going to be the FSU from last year that they were coming up. Now, that's not to say they won't, because I don't know who they're going to have playing. A lot of their players have left, especially on defense, which is really what kept them into a lot of games, because at the end of the season, they were not doing well. And that not just because of the quarterback getting injured, but in general, their offense kind of faltered a little, like what we would do sometimes in the fourth quarter. But I thought of it as spoiled sour grapes. We're a big deal now. We're FSU, and we don't like what's going on, blah, 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 blah. Well, but I have a feeling, Dave, somebody's had a talk with them.
I think they're just talked out. There's probably meetings being held. There's probably discussions at a high conference level or with the president of the university and the AD about, what are we going to do? Are we really going to stick out? We really stuck our necks out by complaining. Are we going to have to follow through now and try to find either the Big Ten or are we going to go ahead and try to worm our way into the SEC and take, say, North Carolina with them, which has the media market in the Charlotte area, although they're not that close to Charlotte.
It would make sense.
But it would make some sense because you also get a hell of a basketball program as well. Whereas Clemson, of course, is the name that's going to come up because they're bigger in football. But does the SEC really want them around? I don't know that. So, yeah, they're very bitter, and they probably have a right to be bitter. And then of course come all the conspiracies that ESPN had already signed Nick Saban, and they worked out a deal. We'll get you in the playoff. You retire, come work for us. Just weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is just born out of the frustration they felt being left out. The irony is if it had happened this season, they wouldn't have been left out. They'd be in the 12, and we wouldn't have some of this discussion. But it's just born out of the ashes of them, being so.
But you know what, Dave? Ever since I can remember as a kid, following college football, we have been left out. And I say we, we've been left out.
Well, when you're 6 and 6, you get left out a lot.
No. Yeah. But what I mean is in the past, even, we got left out. We had to share a championship with the Washington Huskies, which we legitimately should have not had to share. There have been other situations. I mean, what was it, 10 years ago? Miami was going to go into the playoffs or whatever we had back then, and FSU stepped in and took the spot over us. So
Man, I
it
don't remember that.
happens.
What 10 years ago? Who the hell was the coach then?
But
It
I
had
mean,
30 coaches in 10 years.
yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is that every year, even with this
Oh, I
new,
remember that now. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, even with this new array,
Mhm.
with the how many teams now?
Well,
12
12.
teams.
Well, 12 now.
12.
We have 4
There's
buys
gonna
and
okay, team 13, 14, and 15 are gonna say, what about us?
well, it's impossible not to complain anymore, especially with so many different ways to complain and be heard, including this venue, the forum that we're in right now. It's just easier, and it seems like complaining gets you more attention than positivity.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll hear that, but you're never going to design a system in college football. We are old enough. Admittedly, we weren't really paying any attention. We were toddlers. We are old enough to know that when we were alive, the college football champion was voted on before the bowl games in the early 60s.
Yep.
They literally would crown a champion before we played bowl games. And then that got changed. And then we would have for a long time, as we're growing up, that dramatic day where you'd have, they'd be lined up like planes coming in. The Cotton Bowl, then Sugar. No,
Sugar
Sugar was at
Bowl, the Rose
night, right?
Bowl. Yeah.
Cotton, orange, cotton, rose, sugar, orange.
Right.
And very often you would know your national champ, say by the time the Rose Bowl was over. Let's say an undefeated team. Up, they won. Well, we know he's going to win the national championship, but let's watch these other games anyway because they're fun. And then we
Yeah.
changed that. And we had the BCS. We had a cold-hearted computer. Well, we changed that. And we changed this. And now we have a committee, but we now have 4 people. That's pretty good. That's not enough. Now we got to change that. All of this occurring while we've been alive. Oh, what's the next change going to be? Are we going to let this ride out for a while and see the growing pains and see what can be fixed, or are we going to go? Oh, no, we got to have 16. No, it's what the hell? What's that many in the NCAA tournament? 64. Let's just do that. Yeah, I realize I'm exaggerating there. What no one ever thinks about, by the way, is the physical cost of the people who are playing these games. These aren't pros, even though some of them are being paid like it. I'm concerned. My big concern with this, Gary, honestly, and maybe I'm just being too sensitive, is that I'm worried that we're going to get to that national title game, and these kids are going to be so beat up that a lot of key people won't be able to play because they're hurt.
Yeah.
Because they're doing things that maybe a 20-year-old shouldn't do that a 30-year-old can do. So we'll see what happens with it.
And I mean, let's be honest. How many of these players now don't play in the bowl games anyway because they're
They'll
saving
play
themselves?
in these.
Yeah.
They'll play.
Well,
look at the Florida State Georgia game. What a disaster that was.
Oh, yeah.
Because 2 teams who thought they should have been in the playoff. Georgia had an argument. Were left out. So if the game has no meaning, then why, if you think you have a chance and people are telling you, or maybe your coaches are even telling you, hey, you got a shot to get drafted.
Yeah.
Why should you risk it? Look, why should you be Melvin Bratton? Why should you be who was it? Well, Frank Gore survived his knee injury.
Frank Gore,
yeah. Hall of Fame career, but
Melvin didn't.
No, guys get hurt in these games, and there is a massive risk of that. So they weigh it against future earnings and decide to sit out.
Yeah.
I can't blame them. It sucks, and it absolutely sucks. But
after that 4 years, or 5 years in college ball, although we have, Dave, are you aware of this? We got a guy at the U that's spending his 9th year in college football.
Yeah. Listen, if you don't hate the player, hate the game. And if it's by the rules, then what the hell?
I mean,
I'm sure he might be the smartest kid on campus. He should have been in enough classes.
By the way, do you think they would take us back?
No. I think, although if we had enough money, and I would have to be going for a master's. I don't have the time for that.
No.
That's hard work.
Yeah. My brother has a master's degree, spent a lot of time in there. Let's go to the NFL real quick. We got about 10 minutes left.
We got 10 minutes. Plus, you wanted to talk about the NBA All-Star game too. You were a little.
Oh, yeah. Well,
wherever you want to go, I'll go with you.
let's go with the NBA All-Star game because that happened last night and Patrick Mahomes can wait. Um, Even Silver, after the game last night, was not pleased
Mhm.
with the outcome of the game. I mean, this thing is just so out of whack. First of all, they don't play defense,
Right.
obviously.
Do they play
Uh,
defense in the NHL All-Star game?
no,
Do
they
they
don't play
and did
defense
they
in
play
the
defense when
NFL.
they had the Pro Bowl? The only game, All-Star game, where you actually play defense is baseball because you have to,
Yes.
so, and it's not a defense that can hurt you. So, I don't know what to do about it, Gary, because we're in that same situation we had with the Pro Bowl. The athletes are too valuable now.
Yeah.
They're too valuable to their franchises. That if, and we'll just use Steph Curry as an example. What if he rips an ankle up, sprains it, out for a month
Yeah.
in a game that doesn't count?
Yeah.
Well, if you're the Golden State Warriors, your whole organization's in trouble. Not just Steve Kerr, the entire organization. People could lose jobs in that organization because the team underperformed. And what if it's only because of an injury? What to do about it? I would love to hear great suggestions. And I don't know if I don't have one right off the top of my head.
I don't either, except eliminate it altogether and just give them their all-star cred and move on because
Well,
they've tried every way from Saturday. And yeah, I know the fans want to see it. And Halliburton started off last night with 5 threes in a row, and then he had about another 4 or 5 during the game went by. But my guy Jason Tatum didn't play at all. Really, he only played the first 5, 6 minutes of the game. And LeBron said before the game he's already passed the torch on to these younger players. I mean,
can you
I don't
blame
know.
him?
No, I mean,
I,
he's
I
how much
can of
more
all
fuel
the
does he have?
people. Right, exactly.
How much
So we're
how much fuel does he have left in the tank anyway?
right, and his team isn't even that good. The
No,
days are gone when he could take an entire team like he did in Cleveland and lift them to a title.
right?
In Miami he had help, and when he gets to LA, it looked like he had help, but they haven't really, hasn't quite worked out lately. But
No,
I just don't know the solution. I mean, you want to have the weekend to celebrate the game, and the contests are fun, and the experience. They put on a lot of different shows. There's concerts. There's all sorts of things. Uh, you've made a good weekend out of it, but you're always ending with a walk of shame, kind of game at the end, and then you finish up your regular season. I don't know what to do about it. I really,
no,
and listen, the NHL All-Star game's no better. There's no
no,
hitting in that game. It's the
no.
score is 10-9. Guys are just walking in. The goalies are sort of sticking a leg out. It's no better. The only one left that has any quality to it is MLB, and that's because you have to play normal baseball.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not underhanding pitches to save your elbow. You're going to
No,
go ahead and pitch. You're just going to
yeah,
reduce the amount of pitches you get. And I know those managers are panicking over, okay, I don't want to screw this team up, and I don't want to screw my team up, or I don't, and they worry about that.
yeah.
But you still got to play the game. So
You
that
know,
game is still good.
maybe it's just as well that we don't worry about what the score is or anything. You just appreciate the fact that the All Stars are in your city. They're participating in a game that you get to watch. The seats are probably costing a premium to begin with.
Yeah, but you
So,
probably get a cheap one near the end, I bet.
yeah, I guess, I mean, you can walk up to some towns and like the Miami Marlins in baseball, I guess, in 2 minutes before the game, Dave and I could get box seats
Oh
somewhere.
no, that's guaranteed. The other thing, I was happened to be in Indianapolis 2 weeks ago, Gary, and they have this magnificent airport there. And in the middle of the airport, after you go through security and you go past the baggage area, I mean the airline ticket counters, they have this beautiful circle of restaurants and shops before you get to security. It's really well done. And
Yeah.
in the middle of all of that, they painted a full-length court with two regulation baskets, NBA All-Star game on the floor. You might have seen pictures of it. And they had it up
I've
there
been
for
there. I've been
they've
there.
had it up there for a month. And I went down to baggage claim because I had to check a bag. And every baggage claim, they have one of those things where the baggage claim comes down this way to get the bags down. So every
Right.
one of them had a painting or a photo of an NBA All-Star.
Wow.
Anyone you can think of that I mean, for
Cool.
the city of Indianapolis, and you get that weekend and wherever, I don't know where the All-Star game is next, but whatever weekends there are, that's a big weekend for your city because you
Oh,
are
yeah.
bringing in a lot of people. You're bringing in celebrities. You're bringing in people who want to be seen, in addition to bringing in people who are stars.
I was living in Las Vegas when we had the All-Star game out there. By the way, I've been to Indianapolis because I did a Big Ten game some years ago between Ohio State and Wisconsin, where Ohio State blew them out of the water. And during football season, it's great. There's Indianapolis Colts stuff all over the place, and then
Yeah, they know what they're
the,
doing.
the statue of Peyton Manning out in front, and
Oh, at Lucas Oil?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've never been there.
Oh,
My event was in the burbs, but just the whole vibe, the city downtown, it's a very popular place
oh yeah,
for big events. They're going to have the Olympic swim trials there at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's become a real because the way they laid the downtown out. Anyway,
yeah. But
bottom line is I have no solution for the NBA All-Star game.
And by the way, the airport there in Indianapolis is very nice. I've flown in and out of there numerous times over the years, and it
Easily
really
one
is.
of the 3 best in the country.
Yeah, I mean, and coming from a kid whose father was a captain for Eastern Airlines, I know airports, and that is a good one. And you are right about Fort Lauderdale Airport; they're always behind.
We have to do that show another time.
We will.
We
I
would be
promise.
on until 11:30 Eastern time, or maybe 11:30 p.m. Eastern
Yeah.
time, discussing how I would fix that place and why I should be running it. But it started with the fact that there's one thing you can never fix about the airport, but that is for another discussion, and we must do that.
We
Now,
will.
there's
I
no time
promise
to
you.
do it now because I know you want to talk about Kansas City, and I do too. But we must
We
have
got
that
to make we
conversation.
got to make it quick because we got about 3 minutes to go.
All
I
right.
promised our producer we get out early. Is Patrick Mahomes the next GOAT, or are
Yes.
we two?
Yes.
Or are
Yes.
we putting
Stop
the
it right
cart
there.
before the?
Stop right there. Yes. Yes.
Okay, I thought we're putting the cart before the horse.
New. How many Super Bowls has he been in? 4. How many
Yeah.
has he won? 3.
Okay,
All
but can
right.
Kansas
And the
City
4th
maintain?
Super Bowl maintain. I just said they were in 4 Super Bowls. How
No, but
much
how
more
long can?
maintenance do you want? If we had this discussion after the
Yeah,
first Super Bowl,
yeah.
that would make sense. But we've
Okay,
gone through 4. That's like asking, can the Patriots keep up their diet? Well, hell's bells. They went to like 8, and they won
yeah.
6, or
But
5 and 3 or something like that.
but Dave, the situation financially with these teams,
I know.
Kansas City in particular, and other teams are getting better. My Colts, I think, are going to be better coming next year. Somewhat if Richardson will learn to slide a little bit.
Well, I mean, to your point, can they maintain it? My argument is they are in maintenance right now.
Yeah,
Back-to-back Super Bowl champions for the first time in 19 years. All right, that's maintenance. If you're asking for a third in a row, I guess they can try. Odds are definitely against it,
yeah,
but they're maintaining. They lost the most explosive offensive weapon in the league and won 2 Super Bowls since then.
yeah. You're
That's
right.
what you need to know about that franchise, not just Mahomes, but
Yeah,
the way they adjusted. They have the best secondary in the NFL. Nobody talks about that because it's not sexy. Obviously, great coaching, but it
yeah.
still goes to Mahomes. And Mahomes is now entering that. What do I have to do today to win? Oh, I got to throw for 350? Okay. Oh, I only have to throw for 230 and maybe run the ball a little bit. Sure. Who made all the
Okay.
big plays at the end? He did.
Yeah. He
4th
did.
and 1,
He
he
did.
runs it. He has a huge run that sets them up for the touchdown.
Right.
No. This guy is more than all that. This guy is a athletic freak. Throws at 100 different arm angles if he has to. Plays with extraordinary confidence, as he should. No, I am 100% bought in on this guy.
Okay.
100%.
Well, you know what? The next time we'll pick it up here. We'll talk about your Orioles. We'll talk about your Packers. We'll talk about other things because Dave is going to be back next month,
We got to
whether
talk
you
about
like
that
it or
airport,
not.
Gary. We have got to fix that frickin' airport.
I just want to thank the Japanese Garden for all their assistance in keeping this program on the air, as well as the Elks Lodges of South Florida. Dave LaMont, my guest. I thank you very much. Rick Del Vecchio, executive producer. Tommy Shett, my man for all seasons running this show. Thank you so very much. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, please take care of yourselves and each other.
Thank you, Jerry Springer.
This is
All right.